There are many now who see the big lie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yahweh's creation. It's the 28th of May, 2025, and as always, I'm holding the mainstream legacy media's feet to the fire because they've lied, they've manipulated, they propagandized, and guess what, buddies? All right, welcome to the Wednesday Hump Day, Don't You Dare Crump Day edition of the WTF Reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist, and as always, I humbly request that you visit our website and click on the sponsors area, do business with us, and help us keep the lights on. I'm very, very picky about the products that I'm going to promote on this broadcast because I don't want it to turn into an infomercial. But nonetheless, we still have to pay the bills. And this broadcast is brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's all based on Rife technology. If you don't know who Royal Raymond Rife was and his work developing the Rife machine, do some research. You'll find that there are some Rife machines out there. They're pretty expensive. They're very effective, and there's a big, long learning curve on how to use them. And that's why the Wave Watch is revolutionary. It's Rife technology you wear on your wrist. You don't have to hold on to electrodes or sit for any period of time. You just strap it on and let the frequencies do their thing. So check out the Wave Watch. And again, located at our website, the WTFReports.com. Okay, I got basically a shotgun blast of information, a lot of seemingly unrelated topics to discuss today. But on the get-go, I just want to let you know that, I'm just a regular guy. I really am. I put my pants on one leg at a time just like everybody else, and I don't have degrees and certificates and diplomas hanging on my wall. I've been a musician and a singer, play guitar, been doing that all my life. And, in my younger years, I was chasing the brass ring. I wanted to be a big, star and, go on tour and all that stuff. And I had a few successes during that period of time. But I also, aside from just being a musician and a vocalist, I also was doing narrations and commercials and promotions and stuff like that for radio and television. And over a period of time, working at different television stations, I started to become more and more informed as to world affairs and economics and politics and stuff like that. I never thought I would ever be a talk show host. When I was in my 30s, if somebody said, you're going to end up doing talk radio, you'll be on an international broadcast and broadcasting all over the world with AM, FM, satellite, internet, shortwave, and XM, I would have said, you're crazy. You're crazy. It ain't going to happen. Well, lo and behold, it's funny because, God moves us all in different ways. And in one period of time, I was very sad. I was going through a separation and divorce and all that kind of stuff. And a friend of mine gave me a Bible. And I'm not here to proselytize. I'm not here to Bible beat or anything like that. I've never been a religious kind of guy. I hadn't had a Bible since I was in my teens. And anyway, I opened it up randomly. And it took me to Ezekiel chapter 33. And I just want to share with you a little bit of what it says here. And again, this is Ezekiel chapter 33. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say unto them, When I bring this sword upon the land, if the people of the land take a man of their coasts, and set him for their watchman, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet, and warn the people, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet, and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet, and took not warning, his blood shall be upon him, but he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. But if the watchman see the sword come, and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword come and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood I will require at the watchman's hand. So I heard that, and I said, wow. So if I see something really bad, I have to say something. I'm not stupid. I'm not crazy, and I don't lie. And as far as I'm concerned, if you become aware of a lie and you do nothing to expose the lie, you become part of the lie. So I felt that I was charged with the responsibility of warning people, of telling them, if I see something bad, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. And that prompted me to write a song. And this was the title cut. I'm going to play this to kick off today's show because it's kind of important. That's what inspired me to write this song. And yeah, it's political commentary, but that's what most of my music is anyway. But that's why I started, in essence, blowing the trumpet. And that's the title cut of my first album, and that's 35 years ago? No, 30 years ago. Yeah, 95. Yeah, that's 30 years ago, 3 decades. Wow, time goes by. And the title cut is Will Someone Listen?
It's been going on for year after year, and so many have shed many a tear. And when they sit down to cry, they never question or try to find an answer. That's the way it's been for oh so long, and you're so used to it you don't see what's wrong. It's in your history, and if you just look and see that it's repeating. When lawyers' litigation goes without examination, you can bet that it won't take very long. With rules and regulations and without representation, pretty soon you'll sing a slavery song. No, go ahead and go your own merry way, but I can tell you that you'll soon curse the day you were asleep at the wheel. You didn't know what was real. You'll learn the hard way. Can you get someone to hear when their ears are filled with self-imposed fear? If there's a voice in the crowd that shouts a message out loud, will someone listen? And how can you get someone to see when they can't bring themselves to turn off TV? If someone turns on a light, will others join in the fight or turn a blind eye? When your country's education doesn't teach about your nation, how your family fought so hard to be free, it creates a situation and promotes perpetuation of a people who will live on their knees. No, go ahead and go your own merry way, but I can tell you that you'll soon curse.
Something happened with that. It just recued itself. I had nothing to do with it, I promise. Anyway, you get the general idea. I was basically asking the question, will someone listen? And it's really important that people pay attention. And unfortunately, too many people aren't paying attention. So go ahead and go your own merry way. But I can tell you that you'll soon curse the day you were asleep at the wheel. You didn't care. It was real. You'll learn the hard way. And unfortunately, that's exactly what's going to happen with a lot of my fellow Americans here in this wonderful country that we live in that now should be recognized as the United Zionist States of Israel. And I say that, it's not because I hate Jews. Don't even go there. I mean, there are tons and tons of Israelis in the streets protesting right now against the horrendous treatment of the Palestinians. And so I don't want you to even think that I'm an anti-Semite or anything like that. Tons and tons of people are protesting what's going on in Israel. Now, there is a segment of the population that is very much behind the extermination and the annihilation of an entire group of people. As a matter of fact, Let me see. I got a clip here. They are doing tours in Israel. Get this. They load buses up with kids that are in high school and anybody else who wants to go, and they take them to a high point. I'm not quite sure where it is, but they bus them in, and they have these coin-operated binoculars where you can go and you can watch the Palestinians being bombed. Now, to me, that's crazy. That's sick. Listen to this.
Tourists and school children are going on field trips in Israel, but not to museums. Instead, to watch the destruction of Gaza, known as resilience tourism in Israel, but as genocide tourism internationally.
We were a mile and a half or so from 300,000 people who were being forcibly starved to death by the Israelis.
That was Matthew Ho, a former U.S. State Department official and U.S. Marine veteran, who recently took this tour in Sderot, where visitors used coin-operated binoculars to peek into Gaza.
An Israeli school field trip showed up, and these children, they're teenagers, they came from 2 hours away to come and watch the genocide.
The tours are also done in English for international visitors and are included in Birthright Israel trips for Jewish Americans and for all Israeli school children.
The population sees it as entertainment, where you have this complete dismissal of the Palestinians as human beings, but part of their school curriculum.
And it doesn't just stop at the observation platforms. Reportedly, boat tours have been organized to view the destruction of Gaza, sparking outrage worldwide.
That's insanity. I don't see how anybody in their right mind would participate in that. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are not in their right mind that are doing this. I've seen videos of Israelis that go down, they get onto the beach and they put their chairs down and they sit and they watch. They go out there in the evening to watch all the glowing of the bombs going off in Gaza. And they're cheering it on. I saw another video somewhere in Israel, a whole bunch of Israelis. They were jumping and dancing and singing. And the words to their song were basically saying how we love to rape and kill the Palestinians. They didn't call them the Palestinians, the animals or something like that. I mean, they were dancing in the streets doing this. I mean, how can people think this way? I suppose I shouldn't be too surprised. I've seen some other videos that were taken inside of an Israeli classroom where these kids, 9, 10, 11 years old, and they're being asked questions. What do you do when you see a Palestinian or when you see a Muslim? And they say, we spit on them. We have to kill them. I mean, they're being taught from an early age to hate and to want to kill and rape and stuff like this. This is a sick society. And yet, Israel, Bibi Netanyahu claims that this is the purest form of democracy in the world. We have such a great democracy. No, whoa, wait a second. Democracy means everybody gets a vote, right? So if you have occupied Palestine, you would think the Palestinians would get to vote. No, you don't, because you're less than human. And this is the country that we call our greatest ally? Wait a minute. Why do you say that? Could it have anything to do with the money that you get thrown at you all the time, dear elected congressman and senator? Has it got anything to do with AIPAC and the billions of dollars that they throw at our elected officials? Are our elected officials acting in our best interest, or are they acting in Israelis' best interest? That's why I say we could very well be calling ourselves the United Zionist States of Israel, because our elected officials are working for Israel. They send billions and billions and billions of dollars over there. They got free health care, free college, all kinds of stuff. It's a beautiful, Tel Aviv is just gorgeous, and our cities are falling into disrepair. It just doesn't make sense. As a matter of fact, Glenn Greenwald made a very poignant statement. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play that here. This is Glenn Greenwald. This is what he had to say about it.
The Israelis are like an apocalyptic cult. They don't recognize moral limits. They don't acknowledge the humanity of Palestinians. They absolutely consider Palestinians to be animals. There's no way you can just do what they've done to Gaza. Bomb every remaining hospital and mosque and school. They're bombing electricity generators for hospitals so that ICU patients on incubators die. They've bombed shelters. They've constantly bombed people in tents. The number of children who are dead, including under 3 years old is just, as a statistic, is shocking in itself. There's no question the number of people who have died that we hear from Gaza is extremely underestimated because they only count the people who go through the morgue. Huge numbers of people are still lying under that rubble. There's massive rubble everywhere with bodies underneath who don't make it to the morgue. There are other people who die of disease or hunger who aren't counted because they're not actually killed with bombs or bullets, but they're victims of the Israeli action nonetheless. They've stripped the Palestinians in Gaza of all remaining humanity. I mean, they go to bed every night with Israeli bombers over their head, being terrorized every night that that's the last night their children are going to wake up. I don't even know how you get through this and then maintain any semblance of life, especially the million children in Gaza whose childhood is shaped by this. How do you function? How do you become a normal human being? How do you ever feel safe or stable? Or it's inconceivable.
It is inconceivable. And I have to say, if you're a Zionist Christian out there and you support Israel, you're supporting this. Think about that. I mean, again, I used to watch Pastor Hagee way back in the 90s, and he was railing against the New World Order, and I was fist pumping and say, you go, boy. But something happened to him and many of the other pastors across this country. And I don't know what happened to them. I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with bribery, coercion, blackmail. Yeah, maybe one of those three words is applicable. And I'm sure that one of those three words is applicable to all the members of Congress and the Senate who are supporting Israel and that keep on voicing their undying support for Israel. Is it bribery or lobbying? Yeah. AIPAC? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I don't know what motivates them. I mean, I have my own ideas. I can only speculate. But they're certainly not working in the interest of the American people. But anyway, I wanted to throw a couple of those ideas out there so you can noodle on that for a little while. You know, so if you're an elected member of Congress, or you're a senator, or you're a judge, or whatever, and you are legislating or protecting the Israeli interests, you need to stop and think about it because the entire world now is seeing it. It's called the noticing. We're noticing something. So if you are supporting Israel, you need to rethink. You know, I've said for many years, if love isn't part of your decision-making process, then you need to rethink your decision. You either stand in the light or you hide in the darkness. And if you're ignoring what's going on in Israel right now, let me throw out a scenario for you. I mean, we keep hearing about these shootings. There was another shooting, people getting shot all over the place. And we hear about these school shootings. Well, you know, in Israel, they say, well, we're going after that because they're, Hamas is using, human shields. They're hiding in the hospitals. That's why we have to bomb the hospital. Oh, okay. Well, so if we have a school shooting going on, okay, and the shooter is in there and he's shooting up a bunch of kids and he's holding them hostage. Well, with that type of mentality, why don't you just bomb the whole school? That would take care of the shooter, wouldn't it? That doesn't make sense, does it? No, you got a school shooter in there and you're going to throw a bomb and kill everybody and justify it because, well, we got the shooter down. Well, that's exactly what's going on in Gaza. And everybody is just turning their head the other way. Yeah. Why? Why are you so silent about it? Again, it's one of those three magic words. Bribery, coercion, blackmail. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you think about that blackmail word, I wonder why Dan Bongino and Kash Patel all of a sudden turned the other way and after all this time of looking at the Epstein, quote-unquote, suicide and questioning, and the memes all over the internet. No matter what platform you're looking at, Facebook or X or Instagram, you see it all the time. Epstein didn't kill himself. Well, Bongino was right on board with that whole thing until he got put in the position of assistant FBI director. And now all of a sudden, looking very sheepish. Yeah. Well, yeah, he killed himself. Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah. He killed himself. Okay, what happened, Danny? What happened, Bongino? What happened, Cash? Somebody got to you? I don't know. Anyway, I tell you, we have so many reasons to say WTF. My gosh. By the way, you want to hear the WTF of the month? This is somewhat unrelated, but having to do with the immigration issue. You know, all the Democrats now are screaming bloody murder because down in South Africa, the white farmers are literally being genocided. And that was the confrontation Trump had the president of South Africa in the White House last week. And the mainstream media is saying, Trump ambushed the president of South Africa. He ambushed him. Yeah, because he made him look at the videos of all of the crosses and all the genocide that's going on over there. And the huge crowds, stadiums filled with black Africans saying, kill the whites, kill the whites, kill the whites. And so the white farmers are running for their lives to get out of South Africa because they are being hunted and murdered and raped. So we got a bunch of South Africans that came to the United States for sanctuary. And all the Democrats are saying, no, you can't do that. You know, why are you doing that? Because they're being genocided. So, you know, they don't mind having all of the other people coming across the border for the past 4 years. And that's where the WTF of the week, maybe even of the month, comes in. Jasmine Crockett said this about 2 weeks ago, and she was all upset because of the South Africans coming over here, and yet she's totally ignoring the fact that we've been having tons and tons and millions of people coming across the border. Listen to what she said here. This is amazing.
As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights, and frankly, how... Okay, stop.
She's talking about the Maryland man that got sent to El Salvador, the member of the MS-13 gang, the gangbanger. And so they're all upset because we sent the gangbanger back to El Salvador. Okay, I'm going to let this thing play through.
As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights.
They don't have civil rights or constitutional rights because they're not citizens of the United States. You should know that. You're a member of Congress. But no! Listen to the rest of it.
And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country? Like that,
what?
That is absolutely insane.
Yes, it is insane. That's exactly what's been going on. The Venezuelans and the Nicaraguans and all these other, all these countries have been throwing their worst, emptying the mental institutions and the prisons and sending them here. That's got to be a great big WTF right there. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Anyway, okay, in more unrelated news, let's see, it's coming up on the bottom of the hour. Let's take a break, a pause for the cause.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And you can get More Tank by visiting our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page. It'll take you down to a link where you can go to the website, GetMoreTank.com. You can read all the technical data, how and why this stuff works, and the effect it will have on your vehicle. I promise you, your vehicle will run cleaner. You'll have more power, and the real benefit is that after using a few tanks of this stuff, you're going to start seeing an improved mileage. Yeah, you're going to get between 15 and 20% better mileage in your vehicle. And, of course, that depends on your make, model, year of vehicle and how you drive. But overwhelmingly, the people who use Get More Tank are seeing a dramatic improvement in their mileage. And so it's usually the price is $20. Yeah, $22, I think it is. But anyway, you get 10% off, $20 flat across the board. You get 5 tablets, and that's for 5 tanks of gas. Well, the first tank you use it, you're going to put 2 tablets in. But after that, it's 1 tablet per tank, and there's 5 tablets in a package, and that means 5 tanks of gas. Now, if you're getting 20% better mileage, that means the 5th tank is free. So with one purchase of $20, you're going to save a tank of gas. How much is a tank of gas? Yeah, one purchase, you're going to save a tank of gas. You come out ahead of the game with your very first purchase. So go to TheWTFReports.com and get more tank. Simple as that. Okay, a couple of other things here. We've been hearing about them releasing mosquitoes over Florida. And of course, we're also hearing about all the chemtrails with the aluminum and barium and all kinds of stuff that they're throwing into the air, which comes down and it's on the soil, and it's contaminating all the farmland across this country. And yesterday, I was playing a clip from Erin Brockovich. Remember her? She was talking about the forever chemicals, the glyphosate, and that's in our food supply. I'm telling you, folks, they're trying to kill us. They really are. They've been at it for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, I have in my hand a document from 1977, and it's entitled, it's hearings before the Subcommittee on Health and Scientific Research on the Committee of Human Resources of the United States Senate on the 95th Congress. So this is a Senate report. It's dated March 8th and May 23rd, 1977. The title, Biological Testing Involving Human Subjects by the Department of Defense, 1977. You can look it up. I'm here with the documents and the receipts. On page 15, I read, it says, Serratia bacteria were rare until the 1950s. The SM, Serratia marcescens, organism was considered to be essentially non-pathogenic. And they were talking, you see, Senator Schweitzer was saying here, it is, and I quote, he says, "It is my understanding that in connection, the San Francisco Bay test of September 1950, a series of monitoring stations were set up, and when the material was actually dumped in the ocean, aerosolized by the surf and blown inland, which was the purpose of the project, to determine how effective the impact of an offensive weapon would be against the coast, and some sources familiar with the testing procedure have indicated that the monitoring stations picked up the bacteria as far as 50 miles inland." So they were dumping bacteria in the ocean off the coast of San Francisco and monitoring how far inland the bacteria would spread. So they've been using us as guinea pigs. We're coming up on, we're down almost a century. Yeah, 75 years. Wow. Anyway, it goes on. Let me see, which page is this here? I don't have the page number here. Another comment by Senator Schweitzer. He says, and I quote, "I was deeply disturbed by published reports that the Army had run tests in populated areas of the United States, apparently exposing large numbers of Americans to potentially dangerous substances." Yeah, further down the page, it says the Army was using simulant organisms, live organisms, which we know can infect human beings, in places like the New York subway system, where tests in my home state of Pennsylvania, in Mechanicsburg, and in Kittakinny, and the Tuscarora tunnels of the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and along Pennsylvania State Highway. Some experts have told me that the Army continued to use a certain bacterium long after it was known to cause infections. Officials from the Center for Disease Control have stated that that many better alternatives to the known pathogenic fungus Aspergillus fomenticus exist. It has been suggested that the fact that the organisms used as simulants to naturally occur in the environment does not at all ensure their safety. In fact, because they are normally regulated by the environment, their efforts may be harder to detect and control. So in other words, they've been doing this. They also put bacteria in light bulbs and smash the light bulbs in the subway systems in New York to see how far that the pathogens would travel through the tunnel systems. So this has become standard operating procedure through the past, 6, 7, 8 decades. They've been doing this for a long, long time. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that, because when you see those chemtrails up above, you have to ask, what the heck? What are they doing to us? Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there, let you noodle on that for a little bit. Meanwhile, north of the border, oh man, I'll tell you, let me see, Alberta is making noises like it just may want to secede from Canada. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to join as the 51st state, but there's all kinds of rumblings going on up in Alberta that they just don't want to have anything to do with Ottawa anymore. And the same thing with Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is getting really ticked off. And maybe this has something to do with it. Did you know that Canada now is trying to push euthanasia? Yeah, listen to this. This is amazing.
The Canadian government is now calmly laying out the case for euthanizing children. A brochure in Manitoba with the heading Made for Children and Teens explains how a special committee of MPs and senators has recommended allowing euthanasia for what they're calling mature minors.
Okay, I'm going to pause it for a second. The document is called MADE. When you hear about that, that's what they're talking about. We continue.
Even more chilling, it states that parents might not be consulted and wouldn't need to give consent. Right beside it, a section on Made for Mental Illness, reminding us that while 1 in 10 Canadians waits over 4 months for counseling, the wait for Made is only 3. This isn't a one-off mistake. It's the logical outcome of a system that no longer views death as a tragedy but as a treatment. In February 2023, a federal parliamentary committee officially recommended expanding MAID to include minors who are deemed capable of making such a decision. Their report concluded that age alone shouldn't determine eligibility for assisted death. Instead, it argued that some minors are competent enough to request their own deaths, effectively removing any meaningful age floor. Dying with Dignity Canada, or DWDC, one of the country's most influential advocacy groups on this issue, has gone even further. They've urged Parliament to lower the MAID age to, quote, at least 12, claiming these children should be presumed capable of making decisions about their own deaths, just as adults are. In Quebec, things have already crossed into dystopia. Provincial guidelines now allow doctors to administer MAID to patients who are unconscious or mentally incompetent as long as they previously gave advance consent. In defiance of federal homicide laws, Quebec prosecutors have even issued directives to protect doctors from prosecution. The slope is no longer slippery, it's vertical. Then there's Dr. Ellen Wiebe, one of MAID's most prolific practitioners, who has personally ended hundreds of lives. She describes the work as incredibly rewarding and brags hundreds is good. She avoids calling it euthanasia, reserving that term for pets, and instead prefers the sanitized label of assisted dying. This is how evil enters quietly, with sterile language and bureaucratic indifference. We've replaced compassion with convenience, therapy with termination, and healing with death. And now, the state is preparing to offer it to children.
Amazing. Amazing. And they're changing the language. You know, it's no longer called euthanasia. It's assisted dying. Yeah. It's just sort of like they changed it. They don't want to use the word mother anymore in Congress. Now you have to call a person, a female pregnant person, a birthing person. So you can't use the word mother or mom or anything like that. Wow. I keep telling you, folks, they want us all dead. They want to kill us. They really do. They are desperate to lower the population because when you've got so many people that are waking up, I mean, can you imagine, if everybody broke out the pitchforks and torches and went, these people who are doing this, they all have names, they all have addresses. What if all of a sudden, on a particular day, people showed up at their houses with pitchforks and torches and said, look, you're going to stop this crap. We're done with it. And despite the fact that, you got so many people screaming about it, but nobody's willing to actually do anything about it. And they just, now the Democrats all voted against codifying DOGE, and a bunch of Republicans did too. Wait a minute. Why don't they want to codify it? Why don't they want to, basically acknowledge that the hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars that have been pulled out of the pockets of the American taxpayer and sent God knows where overseas? Yeah, you're still talking about the $40 million a week that's going to the Taliban. Let that settle in. That's out of your taxpayer, and we're paying the Taliban? That's crazy. That's crazy. There was a woman that was saying, "Hey, look, we got to codify DOGE. We have to do it." Here's her statement. Here it is.
If you are a member of Congress and you are refusing to codify the DOGE cuts of waste, fraud, and abuse of hardworking American tax dollars, either side of the aisle, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you're part of the problem and you need to go home. The American people are sick and tired of you mismanaging our money and spending it wildly on your pet projects, lining your pockets and the pockets of your special interests, donors, and friends and family. You are the goddamn problem, and you need to be replaced in November of 2026. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree with everything that she said except for one thing, and that is wait until election next year. We're talking another, 18 months-ish? We don't have that much time. Anyway, we got a caller on the line. Welcome to the show. I didn't even give out the phone number. It's 215-867-8255. Who do we have on the line? Who are you, and where are you calling from?
Okay, this is Melissa in Maryland.
Hello, Melissa.
Okay. I don't expect you to know this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Have you heard of Wynn Parker, Dr. Wynn Parker?
Lynn Parker. I can't say that I have. What about Lynn Parker?
Wynn Parker.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I just wondered if you had heard of him, WINN, and if you knew his whereabouts and what has happened to him. He used to have a show, and I haven't heard from him, and I just wondered what his whereabouts was.
No, I can't say that I know. You said his name is Wynn Parker. No, I don't know the person. No.
Parker, yeah, Dr. Wynn Parker. Okay, well, if you haven't heard from him and you don't know him, that's fine.
Okay. Well, why would I know about him? Tell me what is his issue? What is he known for?
Well, I mean, he used to have, he used to be on, was worth listening to, in my opinion. And just all of a sudden, poof, I didn't hear from him. And so, just like I said, wondered what his whereabouts was.
No, I can't say I know anything about him or what his broadcast was like. I have no clue.
Okay. I think it's WINN. And then Parker, PARKER. And
well, I'll check into it. I'll see if I can find out.
I'll see if I can find out, what it was called, and get back to you about that. But it was on Sunday, and yeah, I mean, it was just he would be on for an hour or two, and then just just haven't heard from him. Anyway, okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for the call. All right, welcome. All right, if you want to join the broadcast, you're welcome to do so. The number here is 215-867-8255. Again, that's 215-867-8255. Okay, we just heard from a woman who was basically saying that, she wants to codify, she wants everybody to codify DOGE, and I agree 100% across the board. The only thing I don't agree with is waiting until November of next year to get it done. No, we got to get it done before that. Anyway, let's see, what else we got here? Oh, yeah, Judge Napolitano. He was talking about the Second Amendment, and a lot of people are talking about Second Amendment because we now are realizing that our elected officials no longer represent the interest of the American people. And that's a simple fact. All you got to do, it's not their words, it's their deeds. Your elected officials overwhelmingly are committing treason across the board. And Judge Napolitano was discussing the Second Amendment, and I agree once again with almost everything that he says in this particular clip. Listen up.
The court declares that the right to keep and bear, the right to carry arms in public, is not a second-class right, as the states that restricted it have claimed. It is in the same category as the natural rights that are protected by the other amendments. All 50 states in the District of Columbia, I almost can't believe I'm saying this because I'm so elated that this is finally the law of the land, are shall issue jurisdictions. Meaning, if they're going to license the carrying of guns, they can do it, but they shall issue the license.
Yeah, well, see, I agree with you on one hand. You know, he says it's finally the law of the land. Hey, it always was the law of the land. That's what the Second Amendment was all about. Now, the other key thing that I don't agree with him on is this issue about issuing a license. Now, if you go to Black's Law Dictionary, the 6th or 7th edition, and you look up the definition of license, license defined by the Black's Law Dictionary is basically permission to do something that is otherwise illegal. Now think about that. If you are asking for a license or applying for a license, you're asking for permission. And you shouldn't have to ask for permission if it's your right. So if you're going to ask them for permission, you're automatically assuming that the powers that be have the power to deny your request. You see how that works? So if you apply for a license or if you're asking for permission, you're all automatically giving them the power to deny. So asking for a marriage license, wait a second, why do you need the government's approval? Why do you need the government's permission to get married? I would think that that's between you, your potential spouse, and God Almighty, if you believe in God. You shouldn't have to go to the government or to the state and ask permission. In other words, apply for a marriage license, marriage permission. So the word license basically means permission. So you shouldn't have to even apply for a gun license or gun permission. That is your right, is your Second Amendment right. So on that particular issue, I disagree with Judge Napolitano. But that's, you know, they play so many games with words. And, you know, it's sort of like income, the word income. You can't go by, if you pick up a dictionary and look up income, you can't go by that definition. You have to go by the definition according to the tax code. If you're going to be filling out your tax forms, if you're going to be filling out that, you know, that 1080, that way, and there is no law requiring you to do so, do some research. But the term income, when you define income, it's, and I can almost quote this, I'll have to paraphrase, and I did this search years and years ago. If you look up the term income, according to the IRS tax code, that means any profit, corporate or otherwise, derived from the sale, manufacture, or distribution of alcohol, tobacco, or firearms. So if you're involved in any one of those activities and you are getting any profits, corporate or otherwise, well then, yeah, that money coming in would be considered income. But if you pound nails for a living, if you flip hamburgers for a living, if you drive a truck for a living, if you clean hotel rooms for a living, you're not involved with the sale, manufacture, or distribution of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and therefore the monies derived from your labor is not income. Oh, and the other thing is a citizen. What's a citizen? Are you a U.S. citizen or are you a state resident? Well, when you fill out that application, you know, a job application, are you a U.S. citizen? Most people say yes. Do you know what a U.S. citizen is legally? It's a person who lives in a district or a territory of the United States. So if you reside in Washington, D.C. proper, yeah, you're a citizen. If you reside in a territory like Puerto Rico, yes, you're a citizen. But if you don't live any of those places, if you live in the state of Oklahoma, then you are a resident of that state. You are not a U.S. citizen. So this is how they get you. They play games with the language all the time. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I realize I'm a bit of a shotgun blast. I'm not staying on any one particular topic today. But that's why, I figured I'd just throw all this stuff out there. It's sort of like throw it on the table, let you guys mess with it. And by the way, Trump just withdrew from the WHO. Did you know that? I got an audio here of him signing the executive order, pulling out of the World Health Organization. That's a good thing. Listen up.
What is this? Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir?
Ooh, that's a big one. So we paid $500 million to World Health when I was here, and I terminated it. China, with 1.4 billion people, we have 350 to pay. Nobody knows what we have because so many people came in illegally, but let's say we have 325. They had 1.4 billion. They were paying 39 million, we were paying 500 million. It seemed a little unfair to me. So that wasn't the reason, but I dropped out. They offered me to come back for 39 million. In theory, it should be less than that, but, and when Biden came back, they came back for 500 million. He knew that you could have come back for 39 million. They wanted us back so badly, so we'll see what happens.
Mr. President,
pretty sad to think of it. China pays 39 million and we pay 500 million, and China's a bigger country.
Mr. President, you spoke about inflation today in your remarks. What actions are you taking today that will have a direct impact for Americans on their everyday costs to bring the cost down?
The biggest thing and factor for inflation is energy. They screwed up my energy policy. And then they went back to it. They heard it really badly, and then they went back to it, and they started drilling more. But by that time, it was too late. Many of these things that we're signing, and that Doug Burgum is going to be signing, and Chris Wright, who's phenomenal at Energy, Department of Energy, we're going to be taking a lot. We're going to make a lot of money from energy. We have more than anybody else. We're going to make a lot of money from energy. We're going to make a lot of money from tariffs. European Union charges us. They have a VAT tax of 20%, but it's really much higher than that. And that's the equivalent, almost the equivalent of a tariff. And they're tough. They're very tough. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm product. They don't take almost anything. And yet we take their cars, or we take their farm product. We take a lot from them. So, we have like a $300 billion deficit with the European Union. So we'll straighten that out with either tariffs, or they have to buy our oil. The one thing they can do, oil and gas, the one thing they can do to catch up quickly, buy our oil and gas.
Will you travel?
And they should do that.
Will you travel to China this year?
Yeah, it could be. I've had the invite.
President Xi invited
I would do
you
it,
to
yeah.
come this year?
Talking about the European Union and the tariffs, what do you mean when you say that the European Union country, I think, is part of BRICS?
That a what?
BRICS. You said BRICS.
Oh, BRICS. No, I was talking about BRICS. BRICS is 6 nations. I think it's 7 nations. And they were looking to do a number in the United States. And if they do that, they won't be happy about what's going to happen to them.
Are you still considering a universal tariff, Mr. President, on all countries?
I may, yeah, but we're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, so he's saying that if he's invited to go to China and meet with President Xi, well, he's willing to do it. But, I think this is a good thing. He's pulling out of the WHO. I want to see him pull out of the UN as well. The UN is not our friend. Hasn't been for a long time. And anyway, I wish that people would get a brain and start thinking about stuff.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart. And then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for third-grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
Tryabrain.com. I love it. I think a lot of people are rediscovering their gray matter between their ears and starting to utilize it. And that's why I think there's this thing called the noticing going on all over the world. Anyway, that said, I want to remind everybody that if you're listening to this broadcast, I know that the overwhelming majority of you are listening to a rebroadcast because this show is live at 12 noon Mountain Time, Monday through Friday. That's 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific Time. Now, if you're not listening during those times, of course, that's that would also be 1 o'clock Central Time. So, excuse me. So if you're listening to the rebroadcast, just keep in mind that, that's not live. That's a rebroadcast. So if you'd like to call in, you have to call in during the time when we are live. Because I got a couple of phone calls from Scott Adams, who runs the Red State Talk Radio Network. And he was getting calls in the late afternoon when they're doing a replay. And he's saying, oh, gosh, no, this isn't the WTF reports, So keep that in mind. So if you'd like to participate in the broadcast, and I encourage you to do so, you have to do so when we are live. And again, it's from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And that's we're coming up on the closing minutes of the show today. All right, that said, I would like to, there won't be time to do it today, but at some point, any of you folks out there that are using the Wave Watch, I'd love to hear from you. I'm not going to do it today, but maybe tomorrow or Friday, if you're willing to listen live during the hours that I just mentioned, I'd love to hear your testimony about how the Wave Watch is working for you. Now, I have to do a disclaimer because we're not claiming that that the Wave Watch is being used to treat or cure any type of problem or malady that you may have. That's for your educational and entertainment purposes only. I have to put that disclaimer out there. But we all know that Tesla had said many years ago that frequency is everything. And the issue about frequency was reflected in the work of Royal Raymond Rife, who, again, developed the Rife machine and using frequencies to help different cells flourish and resonate. And it also uses frequencies to destroy pathogens like viruses and bacteria, fungi, stuff like that. And that's why the frequencies in the Wave Watch are so very interesting. So, again, I encourage you, if you're using a Wave Watch, I'd like to hear from you at some point when I'm doing a live broadcast. So, again, I'll be on again tomorrow on Thursday and also on Friday at 12 noon Mountain Time. So keep that in mind. Anyway, that said, we're coming to winding down to the last few minutes of the broadcast. And I appreciate so much your listenership. I've gotten a few emails from you folks, and I really appreciate your support. That said, that's going to wind it up for today's Wednesday Hump Day, Don't You Dare Crump Day version of the WTF Reports. I thank you all, and if you're enjoying the broadcast, if you're listening on Rumble or BitChute or YouTube or any other platform, I humbly request that you like, share, and subscribe, and also tell your friends and family about this crazy talk show host with music and a little bit of tongue-in-cheek comedy and the receipts. I'm here with the audio receipts and the documentation, and that's just the way it is here at the WTF Reports. All right, that said, we're out of here. We're done. So God bless you all. Stay safe, stay free, and I'll see you tomorrow.